Good evening and a warm welcome to each and everyone. Today's webinar is presented by Stonelam Surfaces LLP, Laminum Essence of a Surface. Future of Facades. Where do we go from here? Where is the building industry heading to? Adapting new materials, technologies, innovations, or looking for a change in the design approach? Let us find out from a prominent panel which includes the key players from the build industry. Mr. Pankaj Keswani, Manager Director, Alufit, the moderator for today's panel discussion. Mr. Mahesh Arumugam, Regional Director, South Asia, Meinhardt Group. Architect Pushyamitra Londhe, Associate Architect, Architect Hafeez Contractor. Mr. Harmeet Singh, Director of Global Facade Solutions. Architect Hiten Sethi, Principal Architect, HSA. I hope we have an enriching session and get answers to our queries. Before we start with our discussion, I now present to you the sponsor for today's webinar, Stonelam, and thereafter Pankaj sir will take the lead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this very, very interesting round of discussions. We've got today for you a very invigorating and exciting topic. It's called Future of Facades and Where Do We Go From Here? To join me today, I've got four eminent panelists with me. We have Mr. Hiten Sethi. We've got Pushyamitra Londhe, right? Both architects in their respective fields and great architects in their enterprises. We've got Mr. Harmeet Singh, Facade Consultant, Global Facade Solutions. We've got Mahesh Arumugam, who heads Meinhardt in India. And with these eminent speakers that we have and panelists, I'm sure it's going to be very enriching for all of you sitting back at home and listening to us. So I'm going to start by introducing our first panelist, Hiten Sethi. Hiten, I'm just going to show you some presentation of his buildings while I speak about him. So this is one of his projects that he's done, right? So Hiten is the founder and CEO of Hiten Sethi and Associates. He passed out from JJ School of Architecture in 1993. He's got 27 years of experience. He'd done his initial formal working with Satish Gujral and Associates as well as Raja Edri. And in 94, he set up Hiten Sethi and Associates. He's presently a member of the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, Chicago. He's also the co-chairman of the Mumbai chapter of the CII, Indian Green Building Council. He's also the former chairman of the Navi Mumbai chapter of the IIA, right? And he's done a number of projects, as you can see here, what are presently being done and being executed. Some of the most outstanding projects that you see this part of the country, right? I also have for you the next one of the panelists, Mr. Harmeet Singh, right? And Harmeet has over 37 years of experience in manufacture, design, planning, execution, and consultancy of facade systems. For 19 years, he was with ECIE and with Permisa ECIE as managing director. Post that, he joined Thomas Bennett in Dubai, where he was there for 2 years. And in 2004, came to India, wherein he set up his own, a consultancy firm called Global Facade Solutions. These are some of the projects that he's done. He's done over 300 projects in the country, and his main expertise are in Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai, and Hyderabad. Some of his more prominent clients are the Embassy Group, Brigade, MFAR, and he's also working on some corporate projects like the Google and JP Morgan. Right. Okay. Next I have for you is Pushyamitra Londhe from Hafeez Contractor and Associates. Mr. Londhe passed out from Nagpur University in 1998. And ever since he passed out, the next thing he did was he joined Hafeez. He's been with them for 22 years. And while being at Hafeez, he's done some amazing projects there. This is one of them, right? He's also done the Sienna mixed-use development in Mumbai. From doing super tall buildings to low-rise developments, all sizes and scales, commercial projects, IT parks, retail spaces and offices. And he's also worked on Sahara, Ambi Valley and Lavasa. And he topped it off with the Imperial, which is India's tallest super luxury residential project. Following Pushyamitra, I have for you Mahesh Arumugam of Meinhardt. These are some of the projects where he's been the facade consultant. This one is the TCS project in Chennai, which has withstood 2 cyclones, heavy rains and flooding, and without any failures. This is one of his most iconic projects. He's also done the Satya one in Ahmedabad. And Mahesh is personally an architect, an engineer, and an MBA in fire and safety management. He has over 33 years of experience. He was a part of the UB Towers project in Singapore, which was the first unitized granite and glass facade outside of Europe. He's also worked for the better part of his career in Singapore and Dubai. And he came to India in 2006 for the Delhi airport. Having come here in 2008, he set up Meinhardt International at Chennai. And he has to spread it over 250 projects, and most prominent among them being like I just said, for TCS, Chennai and Bhubaneswar, both cities which were hit with cyclones, and both where there've been absolutely zero failures. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation to the panelists. And in line with today's topic, I just want to show you some other projects that we've got. And what I want you to see is that these are the buildings and these are what are being formed right now. These are some of the projects that are online and have been completed. That previous one was ITC. This one is Godrej BKC. This is another one in Hyderabad for Amazon, which had granite and glass. Right? And this is a 62-story tall project in Mumbai. Now, these are all projects that we have seen and we've witnessed and what has happened over the last 5-7 years in the country. I'm not going to beyond that or earlier than that, rather, to 2000s, because that's pretty far off. But what's been happening over the last 5-7 years, my idea was to get a picture from the panelists as to this is what we've been seeing and witnessing in the country. And having seen this, are we now ready for the next stage? Are we going to be seeing projects like the Shard in London, in Mumbai, for instance, or in New Delhi, right? Are we going to see the Shamri of Australia, maybe in Bangalore, right? Would we be seeing the 56 Leonard Street in Chennai, right? I'd like the panelists to come forward and I'd like them to tell me. I'd like to know whether Londhe tells me at Hafeez he can do something like the Nanjing Olympic Tower for us, right? And then are we ready finally for the smart glazing, the smart windows, smart glass? What you see here is a project in New York where there are no shades here. The glass keeps changing with the time of the day. And these are high expensive models of glass, which cost upwards of 5,000 rupees a square foot. So this is what I want to put to the panel. Are we ready for these in India right now, right? And where do we go from here? So I'm going to start with my first question of the day. And this is going to be to Pushyamitra. Pushyamitra, if I may have your attention. Yeah? Do you foresee, having seen what you've just seen on your screen and seeing where we are looking forward to going, do you see the buildings that we're going to be doing ahead more complex?
I wouldn't say the word complex here. I would say that buildings would be more simplified. That's how I would describe it. And when I talk of simplified buildings, in terms of because the way the post-COVID situation would be immediately, and then after 2 years down the line, it will have a very different impact. So there, what we'll have to look at is the capital expenditure or the maintenance, operational expenditure. All that will have to be seen. And that's how I would put them. And like, for example, like project how we had completed in for DLF Chennai. So there it's like a more simplified kind of a thing where we balance out the strip glazing and punched windows and things like that. And when we talk of simplicity, then it's also about how fast you're able to complete these projects. So it's like minimum labor, more factory finished things where they're done at factory and then they just come and install. For example, this particular project where we have a huge, there you don't see that it's like, though there's a lot of glass being shown here, but still it's possible that it's more unitized kind of a way we adopted. And then we're able to control, the time factor and labor also, where the dependency on labor is reduced. Even this kind of factors we were experiencing, and we are already doing, for example, for Infosys and other clients, where they are already specified like 30% of glazing area and other areas have to be opaque. So it's already been done earlier also, and that.
So, Harmeet, Pushyamitra said that we're going to see more simplified buildings as we go along. We're going to see buildings which are going to be less capital intensive but more easier to fix and fit. Do you agree with that kind of thought process? And do you feel that post-COVID, are we going to see a change in the designing of facades?
Yes, I agree with Pushyamitra on this, because I also feel that for the next 2 years, because of the economic downturn, we are going to see a change in the design of facades, not really in the design, but in the design of the buildings, where they're going to use a lot of hard areas like texture paint, etc., and reduce the capex cost on the facade. I mean, and also in other areas of the building, wherever they do. And after 2 years, when the economic U-turn starts, and we start going back to our, what we were, then I see the futuristic buildings will come back. It will be a slow progression, but I see that we will be back to 100% facade. Then the buildings like you showed, like the Shard, or those may come back, into this market. But for the next 2 to 3 years, I think that we will have to go with this downturn and then finally take over the the new buildings, that concepts that are going to come. For example, if you see this building that I was showing, this was designed pre-COVID, and it was designed with 100% glass coverage. And now, within the last month, they have changed the design with only 65% facade coverage. So already there's a 35% drop in facade coverage, which shows texture paint at the backside or in certain areas where they will put a texture paint. So this trend has already started. Now, if you see the earlier slides which I showed you, this is just a double skin facade that we did. Now, we are not going to get 100% facade coverages like we did have earlier, not anymore. Okay, for some time. Like this is also 100% facade coverage building. Now, these we are not going to get. But I see that we have to live with a downturn right now, with a change in design of the facade, not in the designing of the system, but in the area of the facade that the buildings are going to cover.
Okay. Okay, so that's an interesting observation that you've put forward. I think it's going to be a little worrisome for fabricators like us, because we're going to suddenly find ourselves doing the same kind of hard work for less returns, right?
And consultants.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, Hiten, this is to you. Do you think the buildings and the facades that you see today, whether pre-COVID or what we're going to see post-COVID, whether full glazing or partially glazed, right? Do you think they're apt for India? Do you think these are good? Are they? Is this glass box culture that we have? Every commercial building has now got has to have glass, otherwise you can't market it. No one's going to come and take space in that building, right? Why commercials now, even residentials, right? The ICC Island City Centre in Mumbai, or the Four Seasons private residences in Mumbai, they're just simple glass boxes, and even the India Bulls project for that matter. So do you think this is good? I mean, is this like how we have it in Singapore and Hong Kong, right? And of course, different parts of Europe and the US. Is this good for India, or do you think that this shouldn't be done?
So I don't have any preconceived notions about whether the glass box culture was good or bad. I mean, I feel any kind of design which has come out of analytics and process would have definitely caught some fancy of the architect or the designer, So I think the whole idea of any kind of creative notion which a designer has or an architect has The only thing is that engineers and everybody, when we are evolving up the design process, during design process, we start evolving a concept, is that through analytics of various factors, we come to a conclusion about the usage of those materials, whatever we take and wherever we take. 100% glass is one of the choice which many architects have taken over the years. But personally, I have always gone for a very balanced kind of facade treatments, because we, in sustainable architecture, we do follow certain norms which have been put over the years through ECBC or IGBC or needs or whatever. And accordingly, we have sort of implemented the whole thing. So I'm sure the buildings which have 100% glass must also be a responsible piece of architecture. Comparing it would be comparing two different design concepts of two different architects. So I don't think that's really a nice way to judge a particular building. So as an architect, of course, creativity definitely takes my fancy first. And but at the same time, second thing I never miss out is the analytics and the results which ensure the life cycle of the project for the users who are going to use that building for years to come. So I mean, I would be very gray in that particular area. I would not either take sides on whether what is good or bad. But I think any responsible design would definitely be appreciated anyway.
Thank you. Okay, this wasn't meant to be a trick question. It wasn't supposed to be that. It was just basically to get an idea as to what do you think about it. But I hear you loud and clear, and I think you did say that every building has its own nuances, and it has to be designed based on the analytics and based on what is the need. But yes, a balanced facade is always a much better option. However, each one has to be designed with certain, parameters in mind, with certain time frames in mind, certain, environments in mind. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I can actually give a very good example. When it comes to one of the projects which I was showing. In fact, I'll just show you the. So this hospital project, So in this kind of design, initially when we started this particular project, we had some different kind of I did have my elevation streaks which we wanted to follow the logo of the client. That was a flying bird, and we created the wing. So now what happened was, whenever you have these kind of classes, we did realize that this was south facing and in Nagpur. So we did evolve a particular strategy. We did, I think, 20 cases. Different cases of the kind of projection what we require. We have gone for deep recesses of even as deep as 1.2 meters on certain sites. So we have taken even deep louvers, we have even done the analysis of even what the angle of the louvers, how it should be. Mm-hmm. Where would you require the horizontal louver? Where would you require the vertical louver? So once you do a base simulation for indoor light quality, and other studies, you eventually get to a solution yourself. So when I say, so even if you have 100% glass building, and if the person has gone for a double facade, then I'm sure he would have mitigated his analytics so that his design will eventually be responsible design in the society.
Sure. So, okay. Great, thank you. I think that's a great insight. You explained where, based on how you'd even have the louvers, whether it's vertical or it's horizontal, or whether there's glass or it's no glass, right? So that's interesting to learn and understand. Thank you. Moving to Mahesh. Mahesh, you've just seen and you've been part of over 250 projects as consultant here in India, and maybe another 200 plus overseas when you were there. Where do you see buildings or facades in India now going over the next 4 to 5 years?
Got it. Okay. Next 2 years is critical, Pankaj, because everybody coming out of the COVID and is not going to settle down the end of this year. The COVID is going to be there for next year, June, because pandemic virus. So Also, the ongoing project people need to complete. 50% project is on hold this COVID period and incompleted, and this project need to be completed. So after 2 years, I think the investment also in between these 2 years, the investment to India will come because the global situation, people are looking for manufacturing and restructuring or relocating to India and Far East market, and especially South American market, especially Mexico. The global trend is moving on that. When you're doing so, India has a big potential. So investment is going to come, and after 3 to 5 years, after the 2 years period of post-COVID, 3 to 5 years, there's a big potential. You can see whatever you presented, similar projects we can implement. Like instead of rectangular buildings, you can see some complex buildings. Definitely foreign investment is going to come. They need some iconic and landmark buildings. So when you come to landmark architecture, definitely it's going to be complex geometry, not any more rectangular. Yeah, okay. This is a complex bowl shape which is designed by Carlos Uruguay for TCS Customer Care Center in Chennai. It is about 150 meter tall, facing the Bay of Bengal, and it is a 5 different geometries, and is about 30-meter cantilever, and it stands in a stem like a lotus, and it is tested for 9 kPa, is the highest design wind pressure ever tested in India, and it's very complex. You 5 different geometries integrated into one geometry, and it is a bowl shape, is a 3D curve. So we've done it in a very traditional way of trapezoidal panels, cassette system. We did a warp study analysis. What is the warp coming? 55 mm in panel to panel. Then we did a radius floor to floor different geometry, and we analyzed the radius between the above floor and below floors. And we modeled all directional of integrating all 5 geometries into one geometry. And we took a optimized panel modulation for cost savings and economical and value engineering point of view. So all made it trapezoidal, and we done it with a few types of panels and integrated and they did in completed. And this project, they done this complex geometry in 2016, and is fully functional, is withstood to cyclone and heavy rain and flooding, and without any failures as on date. So this kind of geometries. And next complex geometry, India people are willing to spend. This is a Satyavan habitat. The client, the developer want to have a very passionate about everybody open the window and push the screens out, and they want to shade themselves. So what we did, and that cost about 50,000 square meter, 50,000 rupees per square meter facade. But we done it with a small textile gears, and we done it about 15,000, including the frames and everything, including the glass. This is a model we created in linear motion. So the textile gears can move and slide. So wherever you lock, there is a hole. We provided the 15 degree, 30 degree, and 45 degree and 60 degree angle in this pin. You can just release and you can put in position. You'll get a shade. And that's a sustainable. Even Wipro doing it now for sustainable facade, as we talk about Hiten, talk about sustainable, is a completely unitized brick cladding, which we done and is completing now. I think Pankaj also involved in this project in one block, and this is completely unitized. Each and every panels are hand set and is grouted, no sealant joint, natural brick, and is transported as a panel and installed. So coming back to complex geometries, India is willing to do it. India, there are clients wanted their building to be landmark. The client wanted their building to be sustainable, and the client and developer want to put some cost and develop it. So there is a potential. Maybe these 2 years will give a break to us, and definitely it will pick up.
Okay. Okay, so in summarization, as I understand, we've been doing a lot of complex buildings, a lot of complex structures, and our Indian jugaad has come to the fore, right? When we look at projects like Satya Ahmedabad, which could have been 50,000, but you brought that cost down to 15,000 with textile gears and some little basic, simplified systems, and they work very efficiently, which is very heartwarming and very encouraging. So do you still feel that, we are going to take a break, and are our buildings not going to be futuristic because of COVID? Don't you feel that, it's a temporary blip, and, our buildings are always designed for 50 years hence. So when you design buildings now and they're not going to be in tune, and we kind of cut down on the elevation, how will that building be, let's say 2 years or 3 years hence, when we start designing more smarter buildings? This is open to everybody. Anybody can take that question.
So I feel India somehow, I've always, we did some international projects, and the kind of economic basis on which the whole design gets based is quite different. I think India is a very cost-sensitive market with a very conventional system, because adaptation of the systems and the kind of value engineered systems are not there in India. I mean, the project which I was showing, I mean, the kind of engineering what we normally do, you see even the structure, the sizes of the elements, structural elements become so huge, because following the codes and the kind of conventional system which has been prescribed in IS codes do have some limitations on the facts of implementing these kind of futuristic strategies in India. We were talking about cantilever, like Mahesh was saying about 30 meters cantilever. In the hospital which I'm in, we have gone 21 meters cantilever. But I had so many people where I had to convince that these are permissible in codes. I mean, it's something which, the sizes of steel which has come in, I mean, had it been China or perhaps US, I think the alloys would have been there to give a value engineered solution in terms of pre-stressed cables or whatever. But the codes itself, so I feel first is cost, and second is the acceptance of the value engineered solution. They are two things which are very, very strongly, which do not allow these kind of inventions to be highly developed in India.
Okay.
I don't know what the other friends of mine would have.
I tend to agree with Hiten, because I remember in the last couple of months you talked about smart glass. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We did a cost benefit analysis for 2 buildings on smart glass. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we found the capex is so high that you don't even recover your cost in 20 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For the view glass and your sage glass. Okay. A complete detailed cost analysis was done, and we found that it takes you 20 years to recover your capex. And then you're dependent on an import of glass from view or sage, okay, for any replacement or any fracture that takes place. Mm-hmm. So smart glass, I think, will be used very, very sparingly. Maybe the managing director's cabin, or maybe his house, or he wants a greenhouse somewhere, he'll put a smart glass. There I find it'll be useful. But I don't see it coming on projects like it is coming in Europe and in America right now. The other thing I find that is, yes, the next generation, like Mahesh said, that 2 years we are going to be in this downturn economy. So we're going to have to wait our time out. But after that, I think projects are going to come, which will come with very good facades, because it'll be like building a new India after that.
Okay.
I feel that there are also different means and ways of handling that situation instead of just the smart glasses or things like that. So there's always a different way you design the facades where you can handle all the parameters from the glare or whatever the generally the things are. And post COVID, I feel that the way the buildings the facades are going to be designed is not just from the shading and other glare and those, but also will have more breathable kind of facade where we need the fresh air to flow from in and out, get fresh air inside. So those kind of we'll be able to see more of facades being designed like that, not just glazing or some shading elements or whatever the facade, the cladding material or things like that.
Right. Okay. That's interesting to know. I mean, there's a commonality on the panel view that we see that the next 2 years is going to be a bit of a slowdown in terms of high-end elevations, but then post that we're all looking to building a new India, right? So I think something for us to look forward to and some cheer to at the same time. Now,
I think there is a
sorry.
I think there is a potential for India. Currently we are discussing with a very tall high-rise building in Mumbai, which is going to be a very all glasses are going to be curve or geometry, complex geometry. Is going to be about 280-meter tall. There is a big vision in India also. Is not everybody is going for a materialistic approach or cost conservative. There are people willing to spend. There are corporates willing to spend, and there are people wanted to be their building as a landmark, which we did a capital. Initially, you spend extra cost and spend to get the landmark. Today, that building after 10 years also is a landmark in BKC.
Absolutely. Yes. Right.
After that, many buildings came in BKC. Same thing with did Bharti Realty cantilever of the roof trellis of Dial Delhi Aero City, is a KPF. Still, you end up in Delhi Aero City, there are all pocket rectangular buildings, and people want to walk in, come and see these three wall mark and go back. Such a nice, fantastic design, architectural design. So people, there are clients as a vision and thought process and thinking outside of the box, willing to spend and think, and this will come next after post-COVID, after the next 3 to 5 years, you can look at it that India is more going towards a complex geometry. I was emphasizing since 2008, I did many complex geometries.
Right.
I emphasizing from 2008 when I meet many architects, everybody says this cost is a key. Cost is a key. Even we did many projects, case studies, and shelf it. But the future is going to be there and definitely required, because India need visualize and globally shown that it overcoming and it is going to be next to China or other part of the New York, or because this has to be come here, because Singapore, you can Sky City, you can see that is all lands are completed. You look at Hong Kong is completed. Look at Kuala Lumpur is completed. Okay, Dubai is another scenario. It's completely different. Look at India. There's no space to build. And I think the India is a big potential. I think Colombo is coming up. You see after the war, 2009 and today, there are ITC Colombo, Shangri-La, is completely given different urban landmark to Colombo city, Earlier in 2009, you travel to Colombo, you only see a 2 tower, After that, no towers, all low-rise buildings. Today, you go and see from Gale Face, about 20 towers or high-rises, more than 100 meters, And it's showing off, so the city, urban city.
Okay.
I'd like to add something what Mr. Mahesh was saying further to that where there functionality and there's a requirement of certain parameters required for certain kind of buildings, you have to spend there. It's not that you are not going to spend, just because it's post-COVID situation. For example, like what we are doing in Delhi or Convention Center, there again there's a requirement where we have to have bulletproof glass. So there that is being in large panels and large sizes of glazing is done, which is bulletproof. So where that's a requirement and necessity, definitely there will be an expenditure and people will be doing it because that's the requirement of that particular project or building.
Right. So what I hear from the panelists is that it's not all going to be, dull. It's not all going to be low down and low budget, but it's going to be a blend. But if we earlier were looking at, people were more bold and were more confident about making buildings, completely spending a lot of money because there was return on investment. Now we're a little cautious. So there's going to be, a blend of maybe 50-50 or 70-30, 70%, cutting down on expenditure. But those 30% projects which are kind of futuristic and which we've looked at, like we just spoke, those buildings in Mumbai and in Delhi that you spoke about, those will still happen. Right. And then post 2 years, and we probably see a much different scenario.
No, I can see the different perspective of some of the project, Pankaj. When you say this, and Pushyamitra ji is saying that, there is a cost of bullet, Dresden glass, then they're spending it. Like that, some of the architects, very high-rise complex geometries I discussed globally and in India also. The architect first question, the client showing the budget, this, like 100 crore, the architect is coming back, no, my budget is 200 crore. Why then I design it, you want to spend it, then why, otherwise why you engage me? The architect is bold enough questioning it. client and developer saying that you engage me for this and you have to spend for this building and this iconic landmark. We have to stand firm and get the design, get it done. Definitely there is a budget allocated it. If like it, then approve, then get it done. What we are doing it, we shown the concept and coming back the schematic, DD stage, we cut the corners here and cut the corners, keep on cutting and coming back to square. It should not happen in the industry. The industry must.
So I think yeah.
Sure.
The industry must stand firm and as a team of the developers, architects, and everybody look at beyond India. What we needed, and not for what the cost to it, and they should not do it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Hiten, you wanted to say something.
We can summarize the whole thing that we are definitely going to see a futuristic designs.
Right.
But all these designs will be responsible designs. Right. So when they are responsible designs, they would take care of the cost part. So when I say India is a cost-sensitive market, doesn't mean that we don't spend money on our facades or any other specification. I think we have more rich interiors than most of the countries around the world. We have. It has to be consciously decided what is to be done and where at what cost. As Hamid was saying, sage glass or these kind of highly technological smart glasses which are coming here at 5,000 a square feet, giving a TGU at what cost, whatever. So these are accepted by all Indian architects and engineers with an open hand. But when it get to the implementation part of it, it becomes acceptable only in the niche market because of its costing and vulnerability is quite sensitive. So I think we are looking out for good times. That's no doubt about it after COVID. But I think we need to be with COVID. The experience, I think we all have to be very responsible in whatever we are doing. Fantasies, flights and all are good. I mean, Dubai perhaps is one of the living examples what we see, which changed the very strong character of Dubai earlier and converted itself to a Western kind of influenced architecture, which I don't think India will ever do that. India is a very culturally grounded country and will definitely like to mitigate its whatever design solutions to the root levels also. Technology, of course, will be a very important part of whatever we implement and we adapt.
Right. Okay. So basically, if as we understand, is that we're going to be seeing futuristic buildings happening, but not in the speed in which we had planned, because COVID has put a little brake on us right now for us to sit down, reanalyze, reassess, and then once that the thing's done, it's like a red signal on the road. Sometimes it takes a little longer, right? Some of them get over in 30 seconds, some of them take 2.5 minutes. So we've got to take that 2.5 minute break and just not keep honking right now and then wait for it to clear. So I think that's how we probably need to look at it. But tell me, currently, do you see the double skin facades, the stone facades, those integrations still going to be happening, or will that also be changed? I mean, are we now going to be looking at just single skin, basic DGU visions, as single glass for spandrel, right? And just only those areas which need to be glazed will be done. The rest would be just painted. So are we going to be seeing that kind of look and approach?
Can I answer that?
Right. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Basically, I would put it that it's not that we'll not see any DGUs or anything like that. We'll have a facade. We'll be more flexible, I would say. That today, in the current scenario, maybe we'll have things where we have more opaque surface or a painted surface. There are so many materials, texture kind of materials available in the market where you don't have to do extra any at very little cost. You can do those get those finishes. But later on, after a few years, when the things improve economically, then maybe you can get the cladding materials and then redo them. So that's how I would see that. That it's not that you will never see anything like that. For example, I'll just show you one project which we did for Amravati. Now, this particular project, like for example, it is a competition which we won between 8 Singaporean architects, and we won this competition for a very big real estate international firm. Now, here, if you look at this facade, now there is a double facade here. You can say in a way. where you have this fins coming in, you have the glazing also happening. But now this has been designed in a way that where the sun glare is coming, there we have more fixed panels. There are less of glazing. Where there are the other sides has more glazing, and then further automation also can. Now this is not a motorized kind of a thing, but then you can have motorable where the fins can turn and and then you can still have a different facade. So I don't see any reason that you will not have all fancy kind of facade. Definitely there will be, and why not? As architects, we have to be creative and we want to be, and there's always new materials coming in the market which we want to use.
Right.
See, Pankaj, according to me, I don't think there's going to be any compromise on the performance of the facade. Okay, because now facades in India are all going to be performance based. It's not going to be like before, which was all perspective based. Okay, it has to be performance. So the thing of not using a performance glass like a DGU or that's here to stay. That's not changing. Yes, like Pushyamitra said, there are going to be certain areas where they're going to try and find alternative material. Like instead of using a stone cladding, they may find a textured paint that looks like a stone, which is being developed. Which is actually I have seen it happen. They've got textured paint which looks like granite. So people are will definitely look for cheaper options for the short term. I'm not saying stone is not going to come back, or clay tile is not going to be there, or laminate cladding is not going to. They're all going to be there, okay? But maybe used in smaller quantities and replaced by a cheaper material which looks as good for the short term. And 2 years later, then we are going to see buildings like you were trying to show. Yeah? Like you want to see the Shard. It's a nice building, but
please keep me in mind when you're designing the Shard. Okay, so gentlemen, it's been very enriching listening to all of you, and I wish we had more time and we could, take this on, because just as we were getting started, I think we're kind of running out of time right now. The audience is anxious to take questions. So before I open it up to them, I just want closing remarks from your side. We could start with Hiten. Your summarization of where the future is.
The future is absolutely on innovation. I think coming time is going to see many innovative solutions for the kind of needs of building industry. Conventional systems definitely will reduce. The amount of dependent labor-oriented industry will definitely go down. So this will affect the whole gamut of construction industry at every level, right from designing to execution, the last handing over the key. So I feel we are going to witness another golden era of innovations and implementation of very smart and value engineered solutions in construction industry.
Okay, Harmeet.
Well, let me say it's not all doom and gloom. Okay, even for the next 2 years. Okay, I would say somewhere it's floating in between. Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. We will have work. There will be work, because I know some projects that we are doing which is 15 lakh square feet and 11 lakh square feet, which we are doing for a couple of developers, and they're all going to go above ground, and they're all going to start. And in this time we've had that we've really completed the design for those buildings.
Right.
So these are going to happen. Yes, like Hiten was saying, there's going to be cost effectiveness. People are going to cut costs for the next couple of years, but India is on a
roll
after that.
Okay.
After 2 years.
Okay, right. Mahesh, you?
Definitely, Pankaj, these 2 years is a post-COVID period is like what we said, a period for us is a psychologically overcome this 2 years period. And everybody has a feel now that what will be next 2 years. Definitely, India, we have culture and tradition and everything. We definitely overcome. And after 2 years, definitely a lot of industry is going to come. A lot of manufacturing sectors for building sector is going to come in India. So we have a lot of potential after 2 years of the post-COVID. There is a vibrant economy is going to be in India, and vibrant building is there. Visionized architect is going to give more vision to landmarks, iconic buildings. So definitely we have big potential for next 5 years.
Right. Okay. Great. Pushyamitra, you going with Hafeez, where do Contractor and team see it?
Yeah, I would put it that how our office has been for so many years, like how we have been continuously evolving as per the time. So this situation with this COVID and all this lockdown, I feel that there is again a new thing. It's positive because again a new thing is going to get evolved with this parameters in mind. Now we have a new aspect coming in. So I see that you have to evolve, and technology keeps on moving as per the time what is required. So definitely, there will be new things coming in the market which we like to use them as a creative in the creative field. And I feel with this situation and going down further over the years, I feel standardization. Because standardization is going to be a very key role in India also that we have to do it, and globally also it's happening. And that's where because people are going to talk of capex and opex and things like capital expenditure, operational expenditure, and standardization is the new way where you'll have to look at things. But definitely, there's nothing gloomy or negative about it. It's always positive, and I think new things will evolve. I think that's the future.
Okay. So that's wonderful to hear. I mean, everyone's just talking about, let's say we are looking at an 18 to 24 month period. And if it's 24 months, let's at least smile. 10% of that is over because, we started around mid-March when we had COVID. So 2 months are over. We've got 90% time to go. It'll fly. And then we'll start seeing those most wonderful projects like the Shard and probably more interesting projects happening right here in our own backyard. So thank you very much.
So we've got a lot of questions from the audience, a lot of interesting questions, and all your questions will be answered by our panelists. So all the questions that will go unanswered will be put on www.askidac.com later after this session. So I request everybody to sign up on www.askidac.com. It's for all the build professionals of this industry. All the professionals answer the questions. It's a knowledge sharing platform basically. So please hang in there. We're starting with the questions that we've received from the audience.
Yeah.
It's for all the professionals of this industry. All the professionals answer the questions.
Sorry. Okay. Right. So I have a few questions here with me. Do I have everyone's attention? Hiten?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Mahesh, Pushyamitra, and Harmeet?
Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah,
you're all good.
So we've got some very interesting questions that I've come across, right? And
Harmeet sir, do you want to take up any question till then?
Let the moderator ask the questions.
Thank you. Right. Okay. So I'm just putting this generally to the panel, and whoever wishes to take may put his hand up and take this question. Do you think as we go forward, right, and maybe the architects could take this one because it relates to designing.
There is some technical issue, so just wait for a minute.
Okay. Okay. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we
Mr.
back
Pankaj
on?
Keswani?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I was just putting a question to the architects right
Sir,
now.
you can go ahead with the questions.
Thank you. So my question is that are we going to see facades going to be more local or global in the future?
Facades going to be?
Do you see facades? I mean, are we going to go ahead as we go forward? Are we going to see facades being more local or global? I think the questioner wishes to know: are we going to see more, local materials being used in buildings, or are we going to be seeing more imported, materials coming out, or are we going to be seeing buildings with characterize India, like more of stone and more of brick in their architecture? Or are we going to look at futuristic kind of New York, Shanghai kind of buildings?
So I don't know. Every time you talk about futuristic, it seems you're talking about something alien. So futuristic means that it is a more evolved version of a solution that is local. Of course, we always have, when we talk about responsible and sustainable designs, including facades, the definitely local materials are considered at particular level. But anyway, any technology advancements, we're talking about like TGU, shade glass, or smart glasses, whatever comes and gives the best life cycle of the buildings. I mean, as architects, we're going to evolve that, and whichever fits in a design and make a design more efficient in final in numbers and analytics. I think that's what is the solution going to be.
Yeah, even I feel that it's not that when you say talk of futuristic facade, it means that you just do glazing everywhere. There are a lot of materials, and everyone has become very sensitive towards the environment and energy consumption and efficiency. So definitely a mix of material. It doesn't matter whether it comes within India or it comes from anywhere part of the world. It's basically how well you're going to use that material in the building and how efficiently you're going to make it energy efficient. That's important there.
Okay. I think the question was what they wanted to probably put across is that, when we say that we are making our buildings, when we say they're not, they're designing it futuristically, which is true, but probably the question I wanted to say that, we've taken these, imported these, buildings of this kind of look from the West, right? So are we going to see it now having a blend? I mean, I'm not complaining because we've all grown and we've all made, nice buildings, and we see a different, a form today in all our cities. I mean, it's got a different vibe to it. So the question was only whether are we going to be seeing more of those kind of buildings, or are we going to see with natural materials? And I think you've answered that. But the next is that, someone had a question and she said that none of the buildings represent the local architecture of the place, right? And is this a future trend in the sense that, and this, let me put this across to the whole panel again. Like you don't see, like in Mumbai, buildings reflecting that place, or when you go to Agra or you go to a building in Madurai, right? Why do we see just a glass building in Madurai when it should actually take the local architecture of the temples and, create something of that form? So are we going to be seeing just a simple, straightforward, this is what is easy to do? Are we going to see that? Or are we going to see more of the local architecture of being represented on the structure?
Can I take that?
Please.
There are two ways of looking at this. So many times what happens is when you look at local architecture, whatever, there are a lot of heritage, like for example in Mumbai, when you have the south of Mumbai where you have a lot of heritage pressings happening. So then there you'll have to be sensitive and you'll have to do things like that because the norm says that, and you have to blend into the thing, and you suddenly don't have something out of place there. At the same time, there are other aspect which is there where many times what happens when clients or many buildings will have to stand out in the in the entire skyline, and then you have to make the mark. And when there are certain new clients who want to make a landmark building, so in that situation you can design something out of the local context. Also, many times if people are both seeing the old and the same thing again, if you go to Madurai, maybe it's the same temple architecture, and you try to take elements from there. Yes, you can do buildings like that. You can definitely do that. But then you want to make something different. Why keep on repeating what is happening for so many years? For your building to make a landmark or to stand out, you can do something different, and it should be sensibly done. Nothing wrong with it.
See, I think the culture of a place, dictates architecture at many times. So it's a Andamurgi concept. So they go hand in hand. Fashion changes, people change, thought process change, their needs change. We've been always talking about why do we have all air-conditioned buildings. Global warming is already there. I mean, I am doing a project in Mysore, and I'm told 2 years back nobody used AC during that time. And today, I think a couple of buildings have started coming up, which is completely air conditioned because they want to maintain some sort of controlled environment within the building. So it's as every architect will have its own fantasy about a particular project. Of course, contextual. The start of the design is always about the location of a particular form. I have seen as a funny answer saying that I'm making a glass building, but if it is around a neighborhood which is already culturally rich, the reflection in the glass itself will make it like merge in the particular thing. So you can have any kind of fantasy going anywhere. Eventually, I find is that as a designer, I think you will need to sit down and actually get the right balance. Balance is the keyword in creating any kind of project or creation.
Well explained. Very well explained. Thank you. Okay, now this is to our facade consultants, right? What are the other materials that are available, other than glass, that you could use to make a building more aesthetic looking? I mean, any other lighter materials or other kind of materials that you think besides stone and clay tile and things like that? Yeah, Harmeet.
There are materials which looks like stone, and it's very light on the structure. All right, you get it in different thicknesses of 3 mm, 6 mm. They are very safe in terms of impact because you can put a wire mesh. You can put a wire mesh backing so that even during fracture it will not fall down. It will not, it will not hurt anybody. Then you have got these terracotta facades which are coming up, which are also very light on the structure. And then, like Pushyamitra was saying, you have even the paint finishes which are looking like your stone finish today.
True.
Right. The textures which are so beautiful today, So there are materials that are available in the market, like you can use aluminum sheets, very light on the structure. Okay, ACP is now bygone era. All right.
Right.
It's all over. But you can use solid metal. You can perforate it. You can make them light structures and make the whole building. And you can perforate in such a way that you can do backlighting, and it gives you a very different look on the building.
Sure.
So there are materials, but then of course it all depends on the architect would like to what they would like to use what, and we have to meet their intent because their intent is always sacrosanct.
Sure. Okay. Mahesh, if you'd like to add any points to this.
See, we are in tropical environment, right? We are in tropical climate. Many of the designs are more towards to be the window wall ratio and things like that. The codes are streamlined from 2007 to today, last 10 years. And this sustainability is a key, as Hiten just said, So, because the global warming is happening, current situation is happening. So, the window wall ratio, the OPEC versus vision, it can be balanced and it can be addressed with a lot of materials in India. We have a lot of resources,
Right.
There are bamboos you can do. There is plenty of clay, traditional clay from Mysore to Kerala to some portion of the Tamil Nadu and even north. You can Calcutta. You can find. When we go to any restaurants, we can see the clay pots, clay things. Many things can be done, but the industry has to reform to form more clay. For example, Wipro, we need about 16,000 bricks, not tiles, we done it in unitized panel and install. So we do not have the capacity, and we have the raw materials available in India, but we do not have the manufacturing capabilities in India to produce the tiles, bricks, wire cut bricks, such a finish, control environment of burning the bricks to get it 5 shades from gray to light brown. So we have a lot of resources for sustainable material. Even natural stone, we are the second largest color ranges in natural granite in the world. We are the number one in the world. Black galaxy, and you take from black to gray.
Sure.
We have the fantastic colors. Even in Chinese coming in,
Buying it,
Italy, all architects are coming and taking the raw materials from here. But last 5 years, Indian granite industry is established. We have enough gangsters, and but we missing the wire cut and wire cuts and these water jet.
So,
Right.
So as I see, we're going to see a lot of local materials coming, and with Mr. Modi giving the push for Make in India, and plus with imports being going to be challenging in the near future, maybe we could see a lot of materials which are available locally in India coming up on the buildings. Like we could make wire bricks in India. There's no reason why we cannot. All we need to probably put up a plant equivalent to what they have in Vietnam and China, and someone could take it up and do it. And we could see it here. So that's good to hear. There was another point that came up, and this is again now from an architectural perspective, is that with the push now towards having less air conditioning. So are we going to see buildings designed with more ventilation, with more spacing, with more breathable space, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. With the new norms of this pandemic, there'll be social distancing norms. So in terms of space planning and seating arrangement in office buildings, we'll have to refurbish them and redo them. At the same time, in terms of the facade, like I mentioned earlier, you'll have to have breathable facades where even the air conditioning, though it already takes care of fresh air and intake and circulation, but facades also will have where you will be able to easily have the natural circulation happening. But at the same time, also you have to look at when you look at even IT buildings where they have this security in place of helps and things like that. So it should be smartly done. You will have a facade with breathable kind of design.
So I have a different.
But tell me, sorry, please go ahead, Hiten.
I have a different, because that after post-COVID, what's happening is the norms are going to change. When you are people are talking about increasing the intake of fresh air inside the buildings to double the amount what's prescribed as per NBC now. Say, for example, we are going for 6 to 7% of fresh air right now. It may increase to 20%, 15 to 20%, 22%. So when this thing increases, then definitely your capex of air conditioning is going to go up. Now, what's happening is that there are two kind of buildings. One building is which is mandated, like he rightly said, that that we have IT buildings which are supposedly has to be air conditioned. So we need to have a solution like breathable facades or whatever. There are going to be institutional projects, residential projects, commercial projects, which may be a need of hybrid systems. So that's where I think we need to work out on a strategy which will have a hybrid sort of solution. Right from design stage, including passive architecture and evolving a facade strategy for a particular complex. So I think it's going to be there everywhere. But post-COVID, I think there are going to be many laws or many guidelines that are going to change the face. Air-conditioned buildings will require more air conditioners, capex and running, and smart way of going ahead with the other projects would be that you do a sustainable design.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess so. I think, like you said, institutional buildings or which have landscape architecture wherein you've got huge campuses, 50, 70, 100 acres, where you can have buildings, you can have more ventilation. But when you look at a city like Mumbai or Delhi, or where let's say there are individual buildings by themselves and not on a campus, then you've got other challenges of pollution, noise pollution, air pollution.
Absolutely.
So we can't really have those kind of windows. So I guess we need to design it. It's more suiting to the needs of the of the day. and for the industry. So, okay, so there were some other questions also that came in, and this was, we've been talking a lot about the shard and the shard, right? Saying that, are we going to see it? So someone put up a question saying that, is the premise that more glazing and shard-like buildings in India is better architecture?
So it's like a blockbuster movie with Amitabh Bachchan is better, or a movie with Irfan Khan is better. I think both has their own place in the world of architecture. I mean,
Right.
you cannot really compare between. If you like a building aesthetically and pleases you, good. A person who is using that building, if it's fitting his requirements, good. If it's a responsibility for the society, if the architect has thought about that particular thing, consultant is given right kind of detailing on the good. I mean, the solutions have to be. I mean, there's no yes, no. It's all grey. So I think it's very simple that you need to keep the right balance for whatever you do.
Yeah, I agree with Hiten. Absolutely right.
Okay. So great. I think we've had a great evening. We've really, I think I must thank all of you. You'll have been wonderful panelists. I couldn't have chosen a better team. It was just handed over to me, God's gift. But, thank you so much for enlightening the audience, enlightening all of us. I think you all given a very good, very nice insight about buildings, about where we are today, where we're going to go from here tomorrow. What are the challenges over the next few years, and how we're going to see a new India being shaped up and developed. And so on this note, I'd like to say thank you to everyone. Thank you, Hiten. Thank you, Harmeet, Pushyamitra, and Mahesh. And I'll now hand it over to Devanshi. Thank you so much.
A big thank you for the colossal knowledge shared this evening. It is an absolute honor to hear of its first hand from none other than seasoned professionals like you all. Also, a special thanks to our sponsor of this webisode, which is Stonelam Surfaces LLP, Laminum, Essence of a Surface. We thank our audience that have showed support and tuned in this evening. Should you all have any further queries, do contact Team iDAC. All your pending questions, so this is for the audience, all your pending questions will be answered by our industry stalwarts on www.askidac.com. Logging off, please sign up now. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you so much
Thank you.
to all our
Thank you.
panelists. Thank you,
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pankaj.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
for a good moderator.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. Be safe in COVID-19. Thank you.
Be safe. Be healthy.
Log out.